I second.
All right. All those in favor of continuing, starting with Lori,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Emily,
Aye.
and I am an I myself, Rebecca.
Wonderful. Thank you.
All right. Have a good night.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
you as well.
See you next time.
Take care.
All right. Even with my tardiness, we are still a little ahead on time. Rebecca, would you want to do an update on Keys Farm? Or is there an update you would like to do at this point?
We can certainly do that. The commission also has the ability to take the conservation fund vote.
Sure.
If you want to get that out of the way.
Yep, and we might as well do that first. So for members of the commission, just to explain, this is the money put aside for the conservation fund that's budgeted for the conservation fund. And once a year, we have to make an actual vote to take it out of that line item and put it into the actual conservation fund. Am I correct, Rebecca?
Yes, that was actually a very good explanation of it. And I would just add on that it's a line item in our budget that we then have to transfer into the actual conservation fund, which is allocated under Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 8C, related to the Conservation Commission.
And if I am correct, it is a total of $500.
You are correct.
Okay. Any commission members have questions regarding this or surrounding this or need more information on what we're trying to do here? Okay. Hearing none. I'd like to make a motion that we transfer the amount of $500 into the Conservation Commission's Conservation Fund from the money that was budgeted to go into that fund this year. Do I hear a second on transferring that?
Second.
All right. All those in favor, starting with Lori,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Emily,
Aye.
and Rebecca, I am an I as well.
Wonderful. Thank you. And then did you want to do Keys Farm or do you want to attack some of the other business?
I was gonna say we can get through some of the other ones. I know I've gone through the minutes. Have other commission members had a chance to look at the minutes from the 18th? And if so, any changes, corrections, edits?
I'm all set, Brian.
Okay. All right. Hearing none. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes for our May 18th, 2021 meeting as drafted and submitted at this evening's meeting. Do I hear a second for that?
Second.
All right, all those in favor, starting with Lori,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Emily,
Aye.
and Rebecca, I'm an I as well.
Wonderful. Thank you. So our land steward position is still open. That's a volunteer position. We did just choose, or excuse me, I just chose the intern. We had 3 applicants, 2 of which were very strong applicants. And it was actually a very difficult decision. But our intern for the trail that will be along the Still River tributary that then leads into the Nashua River along Forbush Mill Road. And the goal is to connect it to the newly acquired Taggart parcel as well. That will be done this summer. Is Brianna Carlisle. She interned with us last year as well. She's going for an environmental science degree, which was one of the requirements as well. So I'm looking forward to working with her, and hopefully we will have this accomplished in a timely fashion. In fact, I know we will. And she brings to the table some great communication skills in terms of providing some outreach and some innovative ways to advertise the trail and the educational material once it's established. So she's not here this evening, but she said she will be able to make a later meeting if the commission wants to meet her.
And remind me, what was her name again?
Brianna Carlisle.
Brianna Carlisle.
Yep.
Oh, that's excellent. I'm glad you found somebody you are comfortable with. I'd be curious to see the work that she does.
Yeah, we will hopefully be also having a few volunteer days as well that she's going to coordinate. So with that, you'll probably be hearing directly from her.
Very nice.
Yeah. And then the other item was the operation and maintenance plan drafts. And I was curious if commission members were comfortable the way that they were, so we can put it on the website. If not, we can table that until the next meeting, but that was sent out in a packet. I believe there was 5 or 6 of them in one.
I will say I did some fast reading. Some of it was review for some of the ones we had looked at or were going to
Right.
look at past meetings. Did some fast reading today. Nothing jumped out at me. And I think it would be good at this point to post them publicly to see if there's members of the public that want to comment them, put them up on the website until our next meeting, and then maybe try to sign off on them at that point or to
Okay.
implement them.
Yeah, and then I know Emily brought up a really important item to include in the O&M plan drafts, which incorporated the invasive species particular to each property. So as we're into spring now, it's a lot easier to identify those, but I'll still be monitoring that as well, and I will incorporate those species as we see them come up on the properties, just to make sure that it's the most up-to-date that we have.
Any other commission members spot anything on those, the maintenance, the ongoing maintenance plans for any of those properties that you want to discuss this evening? Again, it's easily emailed to Rebecca too during the week, and we'll try to get finalized on them next week. But is there anything anybody wants to point out at this point? All right, excellent. And it looks like that brings us right up to our second hearing. All right. So then, that said, the Bolton Conservation Commission will now continue the public hearing under Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Bylaw, Chapter 233, discussing a notice of intent filed for Century Mill Road, Map 3.D, Parcel 75, regarding the proposed construction of 3 single-family homes and the widening and paving of an existing gravel driveway. I see it on screen, but Rebecca, do you want to give us the update for this?
Sure. We are still waiting for our peer review report, which they have stated they will be getting to that by the end of this week, that they being our peer reviewer. And the applicant has requested a continuation until the next public meeting to allow for time not only to the peer review report to be received by us, but also have time for them to be reviewing it and provide any comments back, as I'm sure there will be. In addition to some of the commission members had emailed me directly individually with some questions about some alternative analysis documents, and then the stormwater calculations document as well. And they will be responding to all of that in the same document. And that's why they requested a continuation until the next public meeting.
Okay. That said, and that all makes sense, it seems fair to me. I am inclined to go ahead and just continue it. I don't know if any commission members have any strong feelings one way or the other. If it just makes sense, we're going to have to hold it over until we can get all that information in. And that said, I'd make a motion that we continue the open public meeting for the notice of intent for Century Mill Road, map 3.D, parcel 75, until our next public meeting, Tuesday, June 15th at 7:30 p.m.
Yep.
All right. Do I hear a second for continuing it?
Second.
Second.
All right. All those in favor, starting with Lori,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Emily,
Aye.
and Rebecca, I am an I as well.
Wonderful, thank you. Okay. Not seeing. I'm just pulling up a document quickly. So the update for Keys Farm is that they still, so as we know, at the last meeting, the Conservation Commission allowed for the deadline of June 4th, which will be this Friday, to complete the work under the, I'm sorry, I'm trying to pull something up, under the enforcement order. And specific to that, they have, I'm going to share this document, if you bear with me for a moment. Okay. So the stormwater management area 1 was ponded, slopes of the basin were in a resistant state with vegetation well established. Again, this is basin 1. And we have some images. Basin 1 is fairly stabilized. This is Hudson Road here. This is the outflow of basin 1. They're establishing that there's some ponding here because the silt fence is in place, which is fine. It's functioning properly. The straw wattles are probably causing that barrier. Stormwater management area 2, they removed they removed accumulated sediment, and then they placed loam at the sides of the basin. You can see obviously that the rain has pushed some of that into the basin again. They have stated that they're going to be reseeding this after they had in the past, but it had washed out clearly after the rain we had this weekend. Stormwater management area 3 at the outflow. I've also requested that they repair some silt fence at the outflow of basin 2. This is basin 3 here though. And it's fairly in the same state that it's been for some time. And then I will try and pull up they have proposed an erosion blanket for the slope stabilization, which is what they will be installing. I know Emily that's this area here, if you can see my mouse. So here's basin 3, here's the outlet, the image we just saw facing this way. And here's Moderator Way. And here is the erosion control blanket. And that was something the commission had brought up before regarding jute netting. And this also seems to be acceptable by planning board as well, to my understanding. And I know Emily had asked for a cut sheet, basically the spec of what erosion control blanket is going to be used. So they will be sending that to me as well. But I have not yet received it. But so they are chipping away at that punch list. They are actively working on it. As you can see, there is still some work that they need to do because of the recent rain and just continued efforts. They do have until Friday, but if in fact they are not in compliance on Friday, the commission has the ability to start issuing fines, $300 per day per violation, as our bylaw and regulations state. If they do come into compliance, then of course the order of conditions is still in place, and we will be reviewing that, or I will be reviewing that in terms of compliance.
Do you have a site visit scheduled for Friday? Or
I don't for Friday, for Monday.
Monday. Okay.
Yes.
Right. Well, you're always great about sending it out an email, but if you have a chance, after you after you get a chance to go out there, just to update us as to where they stand, even if they are in compliance, just to let us know.
Of course,
That would be excellent.
no problem.
Thank you.
Rebecca, do we need to approve this proposed seating for Basin 3 tonight?
We're not approving anything tonight, so
Okay.
they under the enforcement order that was issued, they're required to stabilize the slopes. We discussed the blankets in the past, we discussed some vegetation, we discussed seeding. So the commission doesn't have a practice, and typically multiple boards don't have a practice of stating one particular way to resolve the issue, so that the issue is the slope needs to be stabilized. So they've chosen to use the blanket or propose the blanket. Seems that they're going to try that and seed over it and continue with that effort as long as it's stabilized. And that's the items on the punch list, is to stabilize, to seed the areas, reduce erosion, remediate any erosion, not repair the erosion and silt fencing around the outlets of the stormwater structures. So all down the punch list that we discussed last time. We didn't tell them how to resolve their issue. We just said they need to resolve it. And that's a typical practice that's encouraged.
So what exactly is an erosion control blanket? Is that jute netting that was brought up? Okay.
It could
not
be jute netting. It could be something of that nature, that maybe instead of straw, it has some compost mixed in with the straw. But like I said, I will send you that cut sheet when it's available to me.
So the seed can kind of grow into it, basically.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's the purpose of it. The erosion blanket isn't the permanent solution itself. It's to help stabilize and allow the seed to basically settle and establish itself.
And do we know where they're proposing it? They're showing straw wattles on the plan. Are they going to use those in conjunction with the erosion control blankets, similar to what was there before?
Yes, so that's what is there now in sort of a pattern along the slope. I forget exactly the name of it, but it basically slows down the water, and it also reduces the amount of seed being just washed out and washed down. And you can tell because there is some vegetation, and some is a very generous term, sprouting along those wattles, because it just stops right along it. So they're hoping, I believe, that the blanket will act similarly and stop it from washing out.
Any other commission members have questions about how the enforcement at Keys Farm has been progressing?
I have one more question just about Basin 2, and it
Please.
was on page 2 of, actually page 3 of Dillis and Roy's report. Just wanted to confirm the extent of the loam and seed.
Can you clarify what you mean by confirm the extent of the loam and seed?
Yeah, I'm just gonna hold this up. Sorry. It
That's
almost looks like there's like if you're looking at the basin slope.
Yeah.
I just was curious if they were gonna loam and seed where you can kind of see like tire tracks, so almost all the way up to that like evergreen tree line.
Let me see. So this area here.
Yeah, it's funny because in this
So that's
picture, it looked more like that when we were out
Right.
there a while back, but in this picture, you almost see like tire tracks.
Yeah, so the short answer is within the grading and drainage easement, which is up to this tree line, I believe that's actually the line there.
Okay.
They're required to stabilize that slope.
Awesome.
Yep. But I'll confirm that with them. But like I said, they are going to be reseeding and fixing some of the rills that have started from over the weekend. And they should be out tomorrow doing that, is what I've been told.
Any additional questions on Keys Farm? All right. All right. Let me check time wise. Well, we have a minute, Rebecca. I don't suppose you have any 1 minute long updates on anything.
I do not. We do have Lauren Bell here, but I think we should wait until the next hearing item. She's going to be talking about some dogway signs she wants to create, and then an event as well that she'd like to hold at Bowers, but we have confirmed that it is going to be open to the public, even though you are going to be required to register, and it will not be a for-profit event.
Okay. Yeah, we can go through that with him soon.
Yeah, she can go into further detail.
I should say I noticed that there's a question regarding Keys Farm.
I am. Oh,
And I'm just not sure. Like I originally, usually for something like that type of update, we don't normally take questions. Usually we'll wait to see where they get to on their punch list of things before we reopen it and discuss it again. Yeah, so I generally apologize, but normally we won't take too many questions on what it is they're actually trying to go through with that enforcement order until the enforcement order comes back before us to either discuss whether it was done properly or whether it wasn't. It's the only reason I would normally not open that up for questions really right now, because it was really just an update on where they are with their enforcement order. If that makes sense. And again, looking at the question, yes, that update probably will be at our next public meeting, as to whether the enforcement order was whether they had met all the conditions of the enforcement order. At some point in time, we will have to discuss that and vote as to whether they did meet all those conditions or not, which will probably come up at our next meeting. As we said, the inspection should be either this Friday or the Monday following. All right.
I'm so sorry, my computer just crashed.
That is okay. I think we're all having small issues this evening.
What you had said, someone had a question. And then
No,
that's
I
all
think
heard.
I had explained there was a question on the Keys Farm update.
Okay.
And normally that we'll take public questions when we actually bring up the enforcement order, when we discuss whether they've actually come into compliance or not, would be more of the time that we'll add public questions. This is really just an update as to where they were. And I think the individual was fine with that, and that would be most likely discussing it at our next meeting.
Okay, wonderful.
I think that's all you missed.
Yes, I think it will be an agenda item on our next meeting. I'm gonna wait like 5 minutes or like 2 minutes to share my screen, but if you want to move on to the next item, it's the RDA associated with 159 Ballville Road.
We'll open it nice and slow, give your computer a chance to be prepared. All right, so now the Bolton Conservation Commission will now open a public hearing under Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bolton Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider a request for determination of applicability for 159 Ballville Road, the International/Oaks Golf Course. Rebecca, I'm giving you a chance. I'm assuming you're trying to bring
I'm
up.
back. I'm here.
Okay.
Hopefully it doesn't happen again. We have Kelly Durfee Cardoza, Paul McManus, and Steve Brennan to represent the applicant this evening for this hearing item. So I don't know if you would like them to provide a summary.
That would be fantastic if possible.
Okay, perfect.
So this is Kelly. Rebecca, do you have the figures that we submitted, or do you want me to share my screen?
If the chair is comfortable with you sharing the screen, I know that's not a typical practice, but I'm betting my computer is going to fail me again. So if the chair wouldn't mind, I'd be happy to let you share the screen.
I was gonna say, in this instance, I think it's appropriate. So if you are able to, Kelly, that would be great.
Okay, so
You should be able to now.
do you see it?
Nope.
I do not right now. I'm seeing you still.
Okay, well, it's always interesting. I said share my screen. Let's go back again here.
Oh, there you go.
There, okay.
Yep.
So tonight we're here with a request for determination to maintain the existing golf features on 4 holes on the golf course. As we discussed previously during the ANRAD filing, the golf course was constructed in 2000, and we had filed the ANRAD to identify the line. We've been able to go and do the site walk for that, and the base map for these plans are the plans that you saw at the end of the ANRAD, reflecting the 2 flags that were changed. So the area where we are proposing work is the first tee. It's this tee right back here, and you can see it's within the 75-foot zone as well as the 100-foot zone from this wetland that comes off of Ballville Road. You might remember that this is the one that comes out into the field here. The wetland comes off of Ballville Road right behind the golf hole. And then I actually have a picture of that. Now, sometimes I know the switch doesn't occur. So did it occur?
Did not.
Okay, I'll go back and stop it. So this is that tee. You might remember from the sidewalk that they had placed silt fence. They didn't tow it in. They just did it as basically construction control. And this is the one, this tee right here is the tee that they're proposing to remove the top sod. And then I have one other picture that I'd like to show you, which is, I'm going to stop the share. I don't know why I'm not seeing that one. Here, let's see. Oh, here it is. Are you seeing it now?
Yes.
Okay, cool. This is the tee that we saw. So for those of you who went on the ANRAD sidewalk on the second day, this is the tee that we saw and stopped for just a moment. This is typically what it looks like when they are releveling a tee. They remove the sod, they bring in 2 inches of mix, they level it with a laser level, then they seed it, and then the outer edge of this, they do 3 feet of sod to make sure that they lock that seed in. So that's the work that we're proposing at each of these locations. So the first hole, that's what it would look like. We'll now go on to the next plan that was submitted as part of the application. Are you seeing the second sheet?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the third tee, and what we're proposing to do at this location is to remove the sod, add the mix, level the tee, replace the sod collar. When I did the application, I didn't know whether the work would go into the edge of the 100-foot buffer zone. It's actually just at the very edge of it. So I guess it's questionable whether or not for a maintenance like this, we would even need to ask you for this, but while I was doing them all, we're within inches here on the third hole. Again, I'll show you what that picture looks like. This is the tee on 3 that we're proposing to do. So they'll go and they'll cut out 3 feet along the edge of that tee, level it just like you saw in the other picture. So now we're going to move from doing tee work to the one that is slightly different. And that's on the Oaks 13. What we're going to do is we're going to re-edge an existing bunker and add a sod collar. So this one, I'll show you you can see that the riverfront line goes halfway through the existing bunker. This is what the bunker looks like now. What they've done is they've taken the sand out, the existing drainage, they're simply cleaning it out. The work that's going to be proposed here is to take these kind of furry edges off of the bunker and reshape it, add the sand back in. There'll be no changes to the drainage or anything that exists here. And then finally, the last part that we're proposing to do is that same site plan that we just had. No, it's the next one. Let's see. Oh, right down here. It's a 14th tee. What we're going to do is, again, exactly the same thing. Remove the sod, add the mix, level it, and add the sod collar. And I'll just show you the photo of that one. And that's what that looks like right now. So we're doing a small amount of work in the outer riparian zone of the riverfront area. We're doing, the back tee is proposed to be leveled and reseeded, and that's in the Bolton adjacent upland resource area. And it's just maintenance at the 4 locations of the existing golf course. We're not proposing to expand the work past the existing footprint of maintained turf. We're happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Do any commission members have initial questions?
Kelly, can you just unshare your screen for me, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you. And my other question was, well, first, I think it was very appropriate to incorporate all those items into the RDA. I know one you had a question on, but where it's in really close proximity there, we still typically encourage individuals to file, even if it were just for that one item. The other thing I wanted to ask is, what is the total riverfront area on this site? Just, I know you listed for this proposed disturbance, it's like 3,000 square feet, but I just wanted to compare that to the overall riverfront area.
So the interesting thing is that the last time we did this, I think as we explained to you, Runaway Brook was determined to be intermittent, even though initially it looks like it's perennial. So I think before, and we expect again this summer, I mean, maybe not after yesterday's rain, but we expect it will be intermittent again. It's been intermittent consistently for the last 20 years that I've worked on the site. So I'm going to expect that the amount of riverfront is going to be 0. Right now, I haven't calculated it. We could figure it out, but
Sure. So I guess where my question stems from is, and that's something you can send to me after, unless the commission's closing out this evening, then I think it's important to know before they close out. But you're showing riverfront area on the proposed ANRAD, and I know the commission has stated they're relatively comfortable with that. And I know you've stated it's cautionary due to this, the fact we're in a drought now, and you'd have to prove that it's not perennial. But currently, as it stands, it's on your plans, it's saying riverfront area. So it would be helpful to just know the total riverfront area on the site so that the commission can ensure, which I believe it is, under that 10% or 5,000 square foot, then it would meet the Wetlands Protection Act associated regulations. What the commission also has the task of doing this evening is determining whether or not this proposed work is exempt as maintenance, and therefore can be issued a determination not requiring a notice of intent, or the commission has the ability to issue a determination with a couple conditions as we've done in the past. But I just want to make that clear to the board.
the way it's mapped, so I can't tell you without pulling up CAD and figuring it out, and you don't want me to do that now.
No, and that's, that's just one of the items that came up when I was reviewing it, or re-reviewing it rather. So if the commission's comfortable issuing a decision, or is comfortable with what you proposed and described this evening, that's up to the commission. I'm just stating for them, as I do with all applications, when they're reviewing, they need to look at the resource areas and the performance standards, and then the qualifications of each. And that is one that just stands out in my mind. But from what I understand and looking at the proposed ANRAD, I think it's well under that 10%, but not having the exact numbers, I can't confirm that. I'm bringing it up for the commission's purposes.
I think it's very safe to say that it's well under. I just don't have a number for you. I mean, Paul, I don't know if you have a comment.
No, I don't have the number. I'm quite certain that even with, if we were successful on the brook, we'd be at a fraction of the 10%, 5,000. Excuse me. The other point I would just ask the commission to consider is that we're asking for a determination, and I'm looking at the RDA form, and there's really two things that I think we fall under, which is a -2, a -3, work described in the request is within the buffer zone, but will not alter an area subject to protection under the Act. And with respect to the work in the riverfront, the work described within the request is within an area subject to protection under the Act, but will not remove, fill, dredge, or alter that area. Therefore, said work does not require the filing of an NOI. So I think that's really the important thing, is that even though we are, in riverfront as we mapped it, it's really a case of maintaining the condition that exists there, and really in its entirety with respect to, wetlands performance standards and functions of the riverfront. As Kelly said, we're not, there's no new clearing proposed. There's no new extension of manicured course. So I think that the buffer zone and riverfront work are eligible for negative under those two provisions.
Okay, thank you. I'll give my quick thoughts and I'll open up to other members of the commission. Rebecca, I think you make a really good point about knowing the extent of riverfront there. But I do think in this case, we are anticipating future filings in which that information might be more critical for us to actually get, and that we'll see it further down. I am tending to lean right now towards I think this is maintenance that we probably can condition tonight with a negative determination. There might be some conditions that we want to attach to it, primarily about just stockpiling of materials. But I think I would be fine without that information coming up with a determination tonight. But that is just one commission member. I would like to hear from the other commission members if they have thoughts, feelings, or questions on this initially. Okay. Hearing none.
I agree with you, Brian. I do have a question, and I don't want to open a can of worms. I just have a question about a few things that I was concerned about on site in other locations. How could we as a commission address that or ask questions about that? Does that need to wait until those areas are submitted, if there's any work done there in the future, or is that something that I could ask about tonight?
I would say you could definitely ask about tonight because again, we'll vote as a commission. We'll see where everybody else is leaning, but I'm leaning towards actually attaching conditions. So if there's something you're questioning tonight, that's something that we could possibly condition in the RDA. It would make sense to me.
One just point of order in this is this RDA is related to the mapped items. So if it wasn't incorporated or one of the resource areas that's included on the plans, I would definitely still mention it, but the determination won't apply to those areas. But what I would encourage you to do is email me and then concerns about the site, and I can certainly forward those to the applicant. And obviously the applicant's here, so they are aware that there's obviously something of concern on the property. And that I think will also help them as they formulate their filings that will follow this as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know if the one thing I'm concerned about occurs in other locations. I only saw it in one spot on the site.
Okay.
And it was just regarding field drains. So I don't know if Kelly or Paul could speak to that, if there are field drains discharging into the wetlands in other locations. I did note it on, it's near, sorry, it's not in a location that we're looking at tonight, but if that condition occurs other places on the site, then it would apply to what we're talking about tonight, if that makes sense. And like I said, I don't want to open a can of worms, but I just want to make sure that it gets addressed tonight if it's something that exists in any of these locations.
So there are no proposed changes to drainage in these locations, and I'm not aware of any field drains. I think what you're talking about is there were portions, because the old golf course and the new golf course kind of weave together. I think your concerns were on the Pines course, which is more than 100 years old. And things were done differently with the new golf course, as we pointed out, new 20 years ago, as we pointed out in the NRAD. So I don't think that there are any field drains going into the wetlands at the specific T locations or bunker locations, or the one bunker location that we're looking at.
Emily, if you could annotate, which maybe you did during the site visit, if you could annotate them on a plan and send it to me so that I can possibly set up another site visit with the applicant just to ensure that it's not causing damage to the wetland resource areas, or at the very least make them aware of it so they can go out and inspect these areas themselves as well. That would be really helpful.
Other commission members with initial comments or questions? All right. Rebecca, anybody here from the public tonight that wants to comment on this particular hearing?
I see no one in the chat and I see no one with their hands raised.
Okay. Rebecca, if I were to propose adding in a condition about stockpiling, would it be a -5 determination?
No, I believe it's a -3.
3
Yeah,
with
a -5
conditions?
would be if it's exempt.
Gotcha. Complete. Okay. Um, any commission members have any conditions that they wanted to add on to the RDA as it was submitted, or saw anything that they thought was missing or would need it to be added? Okay. In that case, I'd like to make a motion that we have a -3 determination for the request for determination for 159 Ballville Road, with the following conditions: that the removed material or any new material bringing in be stockpiled outside of the resource areas whenever practicable, and that existing erosion controls be maintained during the resurfacing of these tee boxes.
Brian,
Go ahead.
not to interrupt, but I would just
Please.
incorporate the fact that it needs to be installed properly. So I understand the current silt fence was just for a limit of work, but if they're choosing to use silt fence, that needs to be towed in 6 inches appropriately, or if they're using wattles, that needs to be installed appropriately as well. So just erosion control installed to
Yep.
spec or something like that.
Yep. And the additional condition that erosion controls for this work be installed to spec and inspected before work begins, or before the continuation of work. Do I hear a second for all of that?
I second.
Okay. All right. All those in favor, starting with Lori,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Emily,
Aye.
and Rebecca, I'm an aye as well.
Wonderful, thank you.
All right.
All right.
Yeah, no,
you very
thank you
much.
very much. And I'm sure we'll be seeing you guys in the future.
Thank you.
And when
Thank
the
you.
signatures have been addressed on that document, can you just email me with the correct email? I mean, excuse me, the correct mailing address? Who I should be sending that to?
Certainly.
Thank you. Next we have
All right.
Lauren
night.
Bell, I see is on.
Excellent.
So I will, Mr. Chair, if you would like, I can ask her to give a summary of her project.
That would be fantastic.
Lauren, if you would like to provide a summary, I already gave a brief explanation of the event will be open to the public, but required registration. It is not going to be a fee. It's not for profit. And you're proposing to have it at Bowers. If you want to just provide a brief summary of the event.
Hi, sure. So hi everyone, my name is Lauren. I work as an environmental educator and social media manager for a nonprofit called Evergreen Minds. And Evergreen Minds focuses on offering people living with dementia meaningful connections to nature and mindful immersions in expressive arts. So I've been looking into running a program in the area for people living with dementia that will help connect them to nature. And so I wanted to run a program at Bower Springs, and it would consist of us just meeting in a circle and just folding chairs and we're going to be drawing soundscapes. So this is just, we'll be drawing what we hear in a kind of a map form and doing it in an artistic manner, and then running a forest bathing meditation at the end. And so originally when I was talking to Rebecca about this, we usually keep our programs limited just to people living with dementia and their caretakers. But we would be willing to open this to the public and offer it to anyone who would want to attend, as well as people living with dementia, but we keep that as our target audience when we're advertising for it. But we would just note that it would be open to all. So we'd be in a circle, socially distancing at Bower Springs, and the date would be on June 26th, would run just from 10:30 to 11:30. We, leave no trace, bring out anything that we take in, and we would just hold it in the fields right next to the parking lot. We want somewhere that's really accessible, and it's really nice that Bower Springs has a parking lot right next to an area that's pretty wooded, but also has an open field where we can meet in a nice circle. So that's that item. And then I also wanted to talk about some creation of dog waste signs. Should I do that now or wait until after we talk about this program?
I'll let Brian weigh in on that.
Why don't you hold that thought? Because we can try to get a determination on that, and then we can have that discussion. And I can weigh in early on. I saw the program. Thank you for sending along the narrative as to what the program actually consists of. Looking at that, looking at all of our rules for using Bower Springs, especially seeing how you were kind enough to open it up to the full public. It seems to meet all of our rules, all of everything we put in place for what you would need to do to use that area. I think the project is in keeping what we try to use some of those conservation lands for, and I have no problem with it as it's proposed. Any other members of the commission have thoughts, feelings, or questions they would like to share regarding having this program at Bowers, or allowing this program to be held at Bowers?
I think it's wonderful. My only concern is parking, and I know I don't know if there's any way that we can, this probably is not even possible, but to limit public parking during this event. No, that's my only concern, because as you know, to support the event, which I think is fantastic, my only concern is that folks who come to it may not have a place to park. And I don't know if there's anything that we can do to facilitate that, but.
So one of the items for public property is, or that I've recently reviewed about utilizing the conservation properties and public properties for specific events, is it needs to be open to the public. And that means we can't be limiting the public to access the venue or the event. I do want to just remind people that there are other areas that you can enter the property from. Obviously, for this particular target group, for the program, it would be better if they can park right there at the Flanagan Road parking area, but it is also accessible by Berry Hill Road at 2 different areas, and then over in Harvard as well, which I know they have limited parking in Harvard. It's a longer walk, but for individuals who are coming not specifically for the program, and they may find that the parking area has more cars than usual, it's difficult to differentiate who's coming to the property to do what at certain times, but there are other areas not only for individuals to visit, but also to access this property for this purpose as well.
Would it be possible just to spread the word in a suggestive manner when the event is advertised, and just say, if you are not attending the event, if it's possible to park at Bear Hill Road to free up parking? Is that within reasonable?
So we can certainly post something on the kiosk, but my question is, do we then make that a practice for every event? Which, if that's the case, that's fine, but we have Tom Denny Camp coming, we have volunteer work days, we have invasive species work days, or other events that go on on other properties as well, and we don't do that. So what I understand exactly where you're coming from for the purpose of that and doing that, but unless we want to make it a practice going forward, these are public properties. We shouldn't be restricting parking where there's already difficulty finding parking, unfortunately.
Well, if you did restrict, in this case, you may be restricting only because the people who are attending probably aren't, as healthy and able to walk the longer distances.
Right. And I 100% agree. And I understand that, but we're going to get into that. Well, what about this user group and that user group, which again is fine, but these properties are open to the public. They're not gated. They're open or they're closed dusk to dawn. They're open dawn to dusk. And they're public properties for public access during those times. So I would imagine we'd have to go before the Board of Selectmen if we wanted to restrict parking for some reason, is basically what I'm getting at, because it'd be a change in the property.
I'm not sure you're restricting parking, but I hear you.
Yeah.
I mean, there aren't that many situations where we do have people that would have limited access and need the closer parking.
Oh, agreed. I agree.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I'm just not sure how we can fix it. I think our best bet might be just trying to get the word out that something's going on that weekend. And if at all possible, please explore one of our other parks or look for other parking, options. As we have a group coming in that can really make use of the space. But I think we would try to avoid anything official on top of that because it does start to get very complex. Rebecca, I should ask any members of the public here to comment on this tonight? All right. Members of the commission have any other thoughts, comments, questions? And Rebecca, correct me if I'm wrong, this would simply be a roll call vote. The
Yes.
commission, the commission approves the use of Bower Springs on, what was it, June 26th?
Yeah, June 26th from 10:30 to 11:30, I believe.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, for Evergreen Mines. Okay, in that case, I'd like to call a roll call vote to see if the commission would approve the use of Bower Springs by Evergreen Mines on the 26th from 10:30 to 11:30 p.m. For the purposes stated in the paperwork they had sent to us. All those in favor, starting with Lori,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Emily,
Aye.
and Rebecca, I'm an aye as well.
Great, thank you. And then if Mr. Chair, you would like Lauren to talk about her dog waste sign project.
I would love to hear that if possible.
Thank you so much for approving that program. I'm really excited
It sounds great. It really does.
to run it here. And for parking wise, so usually we've restricted our programs to about 10 people. So this is the first time we're opening it up to the public, but normally we don't get a huge number of people coming anyway. So if for some reason we do have a lot more people sign up, then I'll make sure to be in contact about that. I think parking will be more of an issue. My second job is babysitting for two wonderful girls that also live very close to Bower Springs. They're 4 and 6 years old, and they go hiking there every single day. And so every day that I'm there, we're always spending at least half the day at Bower Springs. And they've noticed, as a lot of people have, a lot of trash and dog waste that unfortunately people just aren't picking up after themselves. And so we've been talking about how we can take environmental action and what we could do to possibly help this issue. And the girls have been really excited about this idea of making signs. And I know I worked as an environmental educator for a couple of years, so I know putting up signs isn't as simple as drawing a nice, pretty sign and putting it up. But I wanted to bring this project to your attention and see if there was a possible way that these girls could make a sign. We could possibly laminate it and nail it up or put it on posts or something, and I could be responsible for maintenance of them, making sure they don't become litter themselves, or just finding a way for these girls to be a part of some sort of environmental education in the park about picking up after yourself in general. And I think possibly this message coming from two little girls who live in the area might make people think twice before they leave a bag of dog waste or something else.
I would hope so. Rebecca, I'm curious, do you have thoughts on that? I know we've run into this before with the questions of signage, and do you have strong thoughts or feelings?
I do. I 100% agree that we, on our conservation properties, or when you're trying to do environmental outreach, you try to minimize signage because people are going there for refuge or for the conservation value. So you don't want to take away from that. So it's always a fine balance. But I think if they wanted to create a sign and then the commission approves the sign that they create, we can certainly post it in the kiosk that's already there. What I would also think that may be fun for them, and something that's already implemented in other towns, so there's sort of clear instructions on how to do it, is, and I can't remember if it's called the red flag survey or something like that. You may have heard of it. It's where you get small survey flags, and basically everywhere that there's a bad bag of dog poop or piece of trash or dog waste, like you can pick a different color if you're doing trash versus dog waste, but you put it in the ground and you do it over the course of a certain amount of time. So we'd put out a public announcement that says, over the next month we're doing this survey, and the girls could go out and put the flags in and talk to people too if they wanted, about why they're doing it. And I agree, coming from a child, sometimes it's it hits a little bit differently, but that's something that I can try and find a link to a project that's already happened in another town, if that's something maybe Lauren would be interested in with the individual she's babysitting. But I think that's something easily implemented. It achieves something that both the commission's trying to achieve and a project purpose that Lauren looks like she's trying to achieve as well with the individual she babysits. So that's my thought. And I don't think that that would be, because it's a limited amount of time, I don't think that that will be too discouraging or damaging to the conservation values, but rather enhancing them by pointing out what the issues are on the property.
I really like that idea. I think the girls would be all for it.
Okay.
Mhm.
Fantastic. I like Rebecca was saying, I know other communities have done it, and it's a interesting concept. And I think it's eye-opening for some people. But as Rebecca was saying, yeah, if the girls want to create some posters, I think we would need to approve them to see the final poster. But I would think our kiosks would be a perfect place to put them up, and even just to cycle through if they make multiple, to put them up at different locations and then just cycle them every once in a while and move them along to some of the other locations. I think it's a great idea. As everybody stated, I think those two girls would do a better job of making people actually care than any of us could with any official written statements we could put on big metal signs with Dayglow orange or anything like. I think that would be wonderful if they're willing to do that, and I think it's fantastic. Other commission members have initial comments, questions, thoughts about this?
Yeah, I
Rebecca,
think it's a
any
great
members-
idea, Brett, also.
Any members of the public, Rebecca, here to comment on this tonight or would like to comment on this?
see no one.
All right. Seeing none, I think we can leave you with that, Lauren, if possible. Yeah, if you can get it designed to us, we'd love to approve it and say to put it in. And if you want to throw the idea of the red flagging out to the girls and see if they have any interest, we'd love to see them undertake that too.
Thank you. That sounds really great.
Great. And Lauren, I'll follow up with a link to a project that's already been implemented. I'm sure you're aware of one, but just to provide an example. And if you wanted to do that and you had a month in mind or a time period in mind, that would be helpful to just correspond with that information as well.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Moving on. I'm just looking through, Rebecca. I think we've gone through most, if not all, of our updates. Is there anyone
Yes.
I am missing?
Nope.
All right. Any commission members have any new business or anything they want to add this evening? Excellent. Rebecca, anything else you would like to add this evening or anything we are forgetting off of hand?
Nope.
All right. In that case, I'd like to make a motion that we officially adjourn the Tuesday, June 1st, 2021 meeting of the Bolton Conservation Commission. Do I hear a
Brian?
second? Right. Oh,
Brian,
yes.
this is Bob Pace. How are you?
Go ahead, Bob. Yes.
Yeah, I didn't know. Did you call us or did you just have the update that Seth gave us?
Oh, is
Gave
this
you.
Keys Farm?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was just the update. Rebecca walked us through
Okay,
the update where
okay.
everything stood.
All right.
So yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Good to see you.
Bye-bye. You too.
All right. All right. So the motion to adjourn still stands. Do we hear a second for it?
A second.
All right. All those in favor, starting with Lori,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Emily,
Aye.
and Rebecca. I am an aye as well. Thank you all for everything. We will see you in 2 weeks, if not before.
Yes. Thank you.
Take care.
Good night.
Recording stopped.